Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. I have on here Miss Ollachi Holman, attorney, content creator. If you don't know her already, if you haven't seen her on Instagram, she is very, very popular and on the rise. And so and a Nigerian and American, right, representing both sides, very similar to my kids. So I definitely want to be able to unpack the this transnational experience from her. But I'm lucky to have on the show here, Ollachi Holman. Thank you so much, sis, for joining the show. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. It's kind of early on a Saturday. I got my tea, but I'm
Yeah.
here. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. It's definitely early here in the Midwest on a Saturday, and kids are out doing activities and stuff. But man, it's just I don't. There's no such thing as sleeping in anymore. So this is a life for now. But yeah. So a little bit, really quickly before we get into gisting and talking about just your experiences, if you can take a couple moments, introduce yourself to the audience, let them know, culturally or professionally, anything that you want to share with them about yourself, really quick.
Okay, so as you mentioned, my name is Ollachi Holman. I am half Nigerian, half African American. I think what's interesting about me is that in my case, especially for millennials, it tended to be the moms that were the Americans. My
Mhm.
dad was the
Oh.
American, so that's why my last name is Holman.
Ah,
And then you mentioned that you're in the Midwest. I'm from the Midwest.
really? Where?
Yeah, I'm from Indiana.
Oh my God, are you serious?
Yeah, where are you?
Oh, Chicago.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say that. I heard it is bad out there
What?
right
Oh
now. I
yeah, yeah,
heard the
yeah, yeah.
weather is bad.
Yeah, my sister has battle.
I heard it's bad.
It's very bad.
So I left. I left. Look, like a proper Igbo girl, I left my village for the city. I couldn't like, Mm-mm. No, but that's where I was born. That's where I grew up before I moved to Nigeria as a kid. And so I kind of split my life, the first 8 years in the States in Indiana,
Mm.
and then the next 8 years in Lagos. And then I actually returned to Indiana to go to college. So I graduated from Purdue University in,
Oh, shout out to the Boilermakers. Okay,
yes,
okay.
yes.
Mm.
Actually, both my parents are Boilermakers. So,
Really? Oh, this is generational.
yes.
Nigerians are deep in Purdue though, low key. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like,
I mean, when I was there, the community wasn't as big as I would believe that it is now. I feel like more people are starting
yeah.
to go because when I went, when I said I was at Purdue, a lot of my friends from secondary school, high school were like, "What's that?" And it's their parents that would like, their parents would be like, "You have a friend that got into Purdue," and then that's when they would be like, "Oh, so you go to a good school?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, yeah, real
Yeah.
good school,
Yeah.
airport
Really
and a
good.
golf course, real good school."
He's at a golf course.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Oh yeah. But as you said, I'm an attorney, I'm a content creator. I like to create informative content, but I try to make it lighthearted and or sarcastic. Sometimes it goes over people's heads and I get hate in the comments, but you know, as much as you'll want to insult people for not understanding sarcasm, I also recognize that a lot of things have happened in society that have put people in situations where they're not able to understand things that they probably should be able to understand.
Mm.
Um, I just try to spread some positivity from time to time, make people think, push people out of their boundaries, and just try to keep us all going in this crazy world.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me about the attorney path. Was that something also like influenced by your family, or was
Before uncle. Before uncle.
that as in like,
I didn't want to do that. I
yeah.
don't want to do that. And which is why, the content I post isn't legal content,
Mhm.
unless from time to time there's something that I feel needs to be addressed legally where I feel like people need some information. But
Mhm.
for the most part, I don't make legal content because law is not my passion. It's never been my passion. Um, it's just something that was pushed on me by, Nigerian parents.
Yeah.
And being a child that was outspoken, a good speaker, um, quick on my feet, I know I have the gift of gab. I always wanted to go into public speaking and entertainment.
Yeah.
I was pushed into law
Yeah.
against my will completely. Like from elementary school, you make a good lawyer. I was like,
Mhm.
what is a lawyer? When they showed me what a lawyer was, I was like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I straight up said, I don't want to do this thing.
Yeah.
Oh, don't worry, you'll be a lawyer. I'll be crying. I don't want to be a lawyer. When I graduated from undergrad with a degree in communication, which is actually perfect for somebody like me, I wanted my whole family made fun of me. They were like, at least they said, I hope you didn't get your degree in communication. I'm like, I did. they were like, "Hey, we have somebody with communication degree in the family. We can't be mocking communication again." I was like, "What
Yeah.
kind of rubbish is this?"
Yeah.
And like it was actually like a really informative degree. It was really helpful, and I wanted to go do a master's and maybe go into something entertainment related, but I was pushed into getting a law degree.
Mm,
And for the most part, I'm on the fence about regretting it.
mm,
Financially, I definitely regret it. I definitely do not recommend law school to anybody who is not sure they want to be a lawyer. It's just such
mhm.
a huge investment
Yeah.
financially, mentally, that if you're
Emotionally.
not right, and
Yeah.
child,
Yeah.
look, don't even
Yeah.
talk about emotionally. In
Listen.
law school, I had my daughter and my mom died. Like it
Oh,
was insane. Yeah, like
yeah.
it's because it's grad school. Life is happening,
Yeah.
and if you're not sure that that's something that you want to do, I honestly don't recommend it. I really actually recommend people spending their money on degrees that they're sure are
Mm.
going to get them income or things that they enjoy doing. So at
Yeah.
least
Bring
you feel
satisfaction.
justified. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, so it was not something I wanted to do. I actually, when I started law school, it was more so like, hey, just gonna become a lawyer. And then I'm like, you're finding out there are different kinds of law.
Yeah.
And there's really nobody informing me like how this works. I have a cousin on my mom's side. We were the first like JDs, the first lawyers in the family.
Mhm.
And there was really no guidance for me on what area of law I even wanted to go into because I didn't want to go into it.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
um I think I started off looking into health law, and that was because Miss Dora Akunyili, who
Mhm.
was the head of NAFDAC, which is like the equivalent of the US's I believe it's FDA,
Mhm.
what she was doing in the country. She was overturning a lot of bad behavior, bad actions that were occurring in the market. So like remember we had a lot, I'm not sure if you remember, like there were a lot of fake drugs on the market in Nigeria
Yeah.
at some point,
Yeah.
and a lot of people were operating without NAFDAC licenses, and she was the one who was really enforcing that. And that inspired me to say, okay, you know what? I'll go to law school. So with everything that I've done education wise, I've kind of always had Nigeria and Africa at the back of my mind.
Mm,
So even coming back to the States, going to school, my thoughts were always, whatever I do, what can I do to benefit the country that did so much for me?
okay. So let's start. Let's kind of pick from there, right? Because I was gonna kind of speak on the upbringing. And so for
Hmm.
me, right, for my the way when I talk about this notion of transnationalism, and I'm continuing to profess it, quote unquote, you bring up interesting perspective that I think some people haven't really shared on the show, which is well, to an extent they have, but like this idea of having to split time, especially in your upbringing, right? And there are different reasons as to why, which we can get into as well, right? There's some people whose parents just want them to get into the culture. Some people's parents are doing it for like disciplinary reasons where they like, oh, you're not behaving yourself. We're gonna send you back, and they literally like take you down there for December, and they just have a ticket. There's a one-way ticket, and that's where
And you don't know.
you don't even know about it, right? Like, so there's so many reasons. So I'm curious for you, born in Indiana, and then going back after 8 years, going back, did you do boarding school? Like, I want to know what that experience was like, and then we can kind of get back and pick up from where you came back to the States. But what was that for you, and how you constructed your identity, because especially with your popsy being American and your mom being Nigerian, like how was that whole thing going?
So it's so interesting. Like my friends who are Nigerian who know me, they're always really shocked at how Nigerian I am because there's certain things that I might say or do at certain times, and then they'll look at me like, "Are you being so different?" And then somebody will be like, "Remember, she's American." And it's like, "Oh yeah, yeah," and it's like we be forgetting because of how Nigerian you are, and they always ask like, "How did you become so Nigerian?" And I'm like, "So far."
Yeah,
Yeah, I went to
suffering.
boarding school so
That's it.
far.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hey, and my boarding school was not. Man, they showed me
Where'd you
shege
go
in
to
that
boarding school
country.
at?
I went to Ibe-Lamberts in
Oh,
Benin.
in Benin. Oh,
Ask about that school, okay?
no, I'm
Anybody
joking.
that's watching the went to Ibe-Lamberts already, you people know what's up. That school appeared to be like one of the poshest schools at the time. Like it was one of the reigning schools. Like when you tell people, like, "Oh yeah, I go to Ibe-Lamberts," people are like, "Ooh, I heard y'all got pools and horses." Mm. I say it was like going to FGC. I'm not even
Are you
kidding.
serious? Federal government?
That school was like going to a federal government college,
I'm
but
weak.
instead you would dress up every day like you are a private school student. Like you present like a private school
And
student,
suffer like
but
a
you
FGP.
are living, yeah, you are living federal government life
I'm
in
sick.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I
And
get.
I hated it so much, but now as an adult, I realized that that school actually prepared me for Nigeria.
Mm,
Nigeria is kind of like that. A lot of people appear to be doing well, right?
mm.
But really, they're soaking Gary when they get home.
As
And that's
in,
actually the condition of the nation, no?
that's facts. That's facts.
Because I grew up in Lagos, and a lot of times
Mhm.
when people live in Lagos, they think that Lagos is an accurate reflection of the nation, and it is not. It is absolutely not. And like Igbinajon taught me basically, like no matter how you're suffering, you can still put your best foot
Face
forward,
forward. Yeah.
yeah. But and it also exposed me to people of a lot more different cultures than those in Lagos.
Mm,
So there were a lot more Benin and a lot more Igbo kids. And
mm,
I think that that really helped me to understand how a lot of Southern Nigerians think,
yeah. Yeah.
not just Lagosians,
That's
you know?
understand.
So like when sometimes people see closed-minded rhetoric or rhetoric that they don't understand, where it's
Yeah.
like this isn't exposed. People like me or people who grew up outside of Lagos, you don't know that this is how this is
Hmm.
how we are. You know what I mean? This is how we are as a
Hmm.
people. So the way it started for me was that, we grew up in Indiana. My parents split up when I was very, very young.
Okay.
Um, and I lived with my mom and my older brother. And so we knew we were Nigerian. I
Okay.
mean, you're going up with a Nigerian mom. See, as they say, it's the mom that raises the child for the most part. And so
Yeah.
usually you kind of adopt your mom's culture.
Yeah.
And I mean, we grew up eating farina, aka Bisquick. you know, Anybody who doesn't know, when our parents couldn't get swallow, they would do
As in this quick,
pancake
man.
mix. you know, um, bruh, like we were those kids, and then
Indianapolis? Was this Indianapolis?
we were in Hammond, and then eventually we wound up in
Okay.
Indianapolis. No, but
Okay.
we
So,
did wind up in Indianapolis.
okay.
We
Okay.
did, and so that's what's interesting. It's like my identity is so, I'm not going to say fractured because it's different parts of me, so
Yeah.
it kind of blends together.
Yeah.
But Nigerians when they raise it's just funny. Nigerians when they raise their children, they're not raising their children to be Black American.
No, exactly.
In
That's the
fact,
part. That's the
they're
part.
intentional
Opposite.
about raising their children to be the opposite.
Opposite. It's
Yeah.
intentionally for you to be
Ah,
opposite of
ah.
them.
And I say this to my friends a lot that, and some people might come for me when I say this, but I really feel like African parents are great at raising successful children in America,
Yeah.
but they're not great at raising Black children in
Exactly.
America
That's not the
because,
goal.
and they don't, and the thing is, unfortunately, you now are left to figure out your Blackness by
Yes.
yourself, which is
Yes.
really messed up
Yes. That was
because
my experience.
at the end of the day, we all become African American to an extent,
If you here, if you gonna be here, yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You want to have friends. You
Oh
know what I'm
yeah.
saying? Like you,
Uh-huh.
and it's also just like that's the Black culture there. And then I'm half Black, so
Mm,
imagine being half Black American, and they're like hammering the thing out of you, and you're like, but
that's your part.
last week I was with my cousins, and we were finna and wanna and gonna and ain't, and
Mm-hmm.
like now you're
Ebonican.
telling me, you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
now, like,
Yeah.
but my mom was actually really good about that. My mom was a person who was really supportive of other cultures. So if
Okay.
I ever met any resistance to my African American culture, it would come from like maybe my mom's relatives, but not
Mm-hmm.
from my
Aunties and
mother.
the yeah.
Yeah,
Aunties are strong with it.
and it wasn't. I'm uncles though, and it
Oh,
wasn't
oh,
the ones in Nigeria. It
it's
was
one
the ones
here.
in
Yeah,
America.
yeah, the
I've
one
said this
here.
to people before
Yeah,
that this whole diaspora war is diaspora
yeah.
because Africans back home are very welcoming towards African
Mm-hmm.
Americans. It's here where you start seeing that divide.
Mm-hmm.
And my theory, which is the shared theory, is that I hate to say it, it's because they are vying for the white man's attention or approval. That's really what it is,
Yeah.
Um, so we were in Indiana with my mom being raised African, which African people, in the 80s and the 90s were trying to raise their kids kind of like white people.
Mm-hmm.
And then for a couple years, we now wound up with our dad in Indianapolis.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when my mom was like laying the foundation to move back to Nigeria.
Okay.
And so she went to Nigeria first, as in, make I see as the place.
Yeah, let's see what the landscape
You
is.
know what I'm saying? Because so many coups and
Organize ourselves.
things, and things had changed, since
Yeah.
she left. So she was like, make I see as the place before I bring my children,
True.
And my dad had us in the hood. So when my black friends are like, "How are you so black?" I'm like, "Girl, them years in the hood and doing
Yeah,
it."
yeah,
So
yeah,
I actually really got to experience my culture,
yeah,
pretty well.
yeah. Like
So by the time,
deeply,
bruh, by the time my
deeply.
mom came to get us like from the States, she was actually just coming to check in. And what she saw, yeah,
He was
let's
like,
go,
I
let's
need
go,
to
let's be
continue.
going,
Let's
let's be
crack. Oh yeah,
going.
oh yeah. Like,
She was like, that's what we
oh
signed up
god.
for. So we only did like a couple years there, but that thing, he entered body.
I
You know what I
know.
mean?
So,
And my mom, that was her children will be wearing vests to school, prim and proper. By the time my mom came, I was dancing butterfly and rapping the brats. My mom was like,
the brat.
7 years old, rapping the brat. Talk about it. You
What?
ain't proud of your blackness. I am. My mom said, will you come on, shut up your mouth?
Yeah, pack your bags now. We're going to boarding school.
Then I blinked like this. But I was always close to my mom, so I actually was completely, I mean, a little girl wants to be with her mom anyway.
Mm,
So I was happy to be with my mom. So like in 1995, about January 1995, we moved to Nigeria.
okay.
And I remember my brother and I being a little nervous because we were both just like, well, what do you think Africa is like? And of course, nobody's referring to Nigeria as Nigeria, we're referring to it as Africa.
Africa. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, what do you think Africa is like? And my brother is like, you know, what if it's just one big carpet that everybody sits on? Like, because your brain,
You
and then
kids, you don't know.
bro, my brother is like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to climb the trees. And, like it's just, and I just remember being like, they would show us videos,
Right.
of Nigeria, but we would still be like,
Mm-mm.
I don't know how this thing is going to be, you know? And I actually remember the night that we arrived. So we flew
Yes.
Lufthansa, and I remember the night that we arrived very clearly. I even remember the smells. Like it was just, honestly, Nigeria was one of the most beautiful experiences of my life.
Mm,
Like I love that place. I love those people. Um, it was just different.
yeah.
Like as soon as we stepped out of the airport, commotion. Like
Of course.
commotion, commotion.
Yeah.
One person running up to us, different
Mhm.
random people hugging us, and I'm just like, what the hell is happening? But I love it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, because it was warm. It
Yeah.
wasn't like um in the States, you don't realize that it's cold.
Mm.
You don't and
You're not talking about climate.
I
Like
am
you're
not.
talking about, the community, the people. Like I get it. I get you. I get you.
Black culture, we know a lot of Black culture comes from African culture, and we're not individualistic people. We are a community centered people. And while we are like that, after years and years of being away from that, we tend to adapt to what is presented to us and is in the climate that we're in. And then, of course, the prevalent culture is going to be Anglo-Saxon, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant culture, WASP culture. And
Yeah.
they're going to be a lot more individualistic. So that is the emotional and psychological climate in America. Now, if I say that, that tends to be the reason why a lot of people have mental health problems. People may come for me, but it is the truth. No man is an island. Um, Make it no be said, it didn't decrease, but now why didn't decrease so soon? But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it was just really warm, and I mean also temperature wise.
Yeah.
Um, but and Hamatan, I remember I was like, I can't tell if
Maca
it's
season.
hot or if it's
Ooh,
dry. Like it
yeah.
was just a little weird, but I just
Yeah.
remembered seeing my mom happy. I
Mm,
had never seen my mom so happy. Like I got to see my mom in her element.
mm,
Now, like existing here in the United States, you as a child, I didn't quite understand what was going on, but I knew I was being treated differently, especially in Indiana. I knew I was being treated differently. I just couldn't put my finger on it. And I think as time went on, I started to realize it was because I was Black. And I've spoken to a lot of Black people, and when I have voiced that being exposed to African culture actually gave me more um, than I would have had if wasn't exposed to it.
mm.
Sometimes I've been met with resistance and defensiveness, and I completely understand. Because how would you feel if somebody tried to tell you that your culture was not enough and you're missing something? You
Right.
understand?
Exactly.
So I tend to try and be really careful when I'm saying this, but to any African Americans that are watching this, like Black Americans, y'all missing something. Okay.
Mm.
I
mm,
promise you, y'all missing something. Like it is what it is. But
mhm,
of course, some people will be resistant. When you go to a place where you are not black, you're just you.
mm,
You know what I'm saying? Like you are
mhm,
just you. You're not black. You're just Nigeria is where I found out I was a fine girl.
mm,
Do you know they were treating me like I was a three in America?
mm,
Like, you know what I'm saying? And then I
mm,
get to Nigeria and they're like, fine girl.
mm. Like, who you talking to?
And then, you know what I'm saying? They're like, oh, you're so
You.
smart. And I'm like, I
You.
know, but they didn't really give me credit in America. And you know what I'm saying? But they're like, no, you're so smart. You're so pretty. You're so. I said,
Mm,
"Ah." I said, yeah, that's what I thought. You see it too? You know what I'm saying? Like,
mm,
because they could see past the complexion, you
mm,
know? Um, Nigeria was where I was seen for myself, for what I brought to the table. You get what I mean? Like a real
mm,
shot. I wasn't expect.
100%.
You know what I'm and like I was my beauty was seen for what it is. And now that I'm an adult, I know I'm a beautiful person. Like, are you kidding me? I have a mirror.
Mm,
But in America, even in the black community, I still wasn't ranking because I wasn't light skinned. I didn't have, loose curls. So it was really
mm,
hard.
yeah,
And my mom wanted that for us. She wanted us
mhm,
to grow up in a place. She said she wanted us to grow up in a place where we saw black people in
yeah,
positions of power.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
She was like, you need to see black people as presidents, as governors, as you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
and it really did change my perspective. When I came back to the States for college and I would have, classmates who would try to stunt on me or whatever,
You're not worried
you
about
know,
that. You're
mm,
not fazed by it. Those
I
things
would
don't
be
faze
like,
me. Not so
me
much.
phase by no, I will phase you back. I said, oh, I'd be like, excuse me. Okay. I've dated the children of governors, okay, mega church owners. I
Oh,
date the
I
children of
flex, so
millionaires, okay. Who have you dated? You know what I mean? Like, because it's like I need for you to understand that I've rubbed shoulders with the children of millionaires, like presidents' children. You
Mm,
know what I'm saying? Like
mhm.
people that can enter rooms that you cannot. So
Yeah,
just chill. Your
just
whiteness
have a
is
seat.
definitely not, it might be a ticket here, but not around the world, you know?
Exactly, exactly.
Um, and that really, it just opened my eyes to America not being the end all be all, which is a
Yeah.
very common American sentiment.
Yes. It's an empowering thing, you know? It's an empowering thing. That is something that I want others to also kind of I wish for my brothers and sisters in the just everywhere to experience, especially and that's something that my wife and I always talk about, in terms of just when she went to Nigeria, because I took her before, like, so it's interesting as you tell your story, right? You came in 95. I ended up leaving in like 97 to go to the States. And that's how I was born in Nigeria, but I ended up leaving in 97. But like that was something when we came back, when I brought my wife with me to Nigeria, and that was her first time. And she saw, just all black people, where she's she's a fair lady. And so for her, she was the white woman. You get what I'm saying? And she was
You'll
like,
be calling her half caste or
you know
things
what I'm
like
saying?
that.
Yeah, like
Oyibo.
for real. Like when we took her to the village, like I always tell this story, but I took her to the village and one of my uncles went to like my cousin, little baby cousin, who was like, do you see the white lady? And Wanda was like, who? Like, I'm me? Like, yeah, like, and because that's not the way, they don't see all of that. So they don't understand how the way they go about categorizing whiteness is a lot different, right, than how we see it here in the States. But that feeling of being to understand, well, there's more than America. Don't go and just let's all shine our eyes so we understand that like this is not don't go and relegate yourself to just putting yourself in this box. People are out there chopping life. Like
And
seriously.
money. You know what I'm saying?
You
Like
get what I'm
life
saying?
and America is interesting because America was very America focused. Like when we were younger, Americans would go on holiday to Florida. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Yosemite. It's
Hmm.
in America. So
Hmm.
Americans were kind of taught like almost like America is just the end all be all.
Hmm.
And stepping out and seeing other things, you realize that America is just like a blip on the map. And even as a child, I recognized that this America at the forefront was not going to last forever. It
Mm,
just became clear. Like as a child growing up in Nigeria, I looked and I was like, "Oh, this is where we're headed. Like
yeah.
we on the come up. We might not be next because
Yeah.
that's China and Asia, but I
Mm,
was like, we are in line. You know
yeah.
what I mean? Very much in line. And um, it just a good example is maybe about 10 years ago. I was in Nigeria, and my Black American aunt actually came. She got to enjoy the experience with us. She actually came for a wedding, so that was really, really nice.
Oh.
And yeah, it was really, really nice. And we were just sitting at the beach, and my sister-in-law was like, you know, I haven't been Black in 2 weeks.
Mm.
And we all just looked at each other. We're like,
That's deep.
that's what that feeling is.
Yeah.
Like, and my
Yeah.
auntie, the Black American, was like, is that what that feeling is? She
Mm.
was like, is that what it is? Because she was like, I'm in a different country, and it was like, yay, we're not Black.
You're not Black. You're just part of you're just, yeah.
Because there's a certain weight of Blackness in this country. There's a certain weight that comes with it, right? Like, I don't walk into a store and think that, you know, if I pick up an item and it's next to my purse, I gotta hold it like this to make sure, like, hey, it's not going in my purse. You know what I mean? Like, it's just completely different. You're at ease, and I Nigeria was it was probably one of the worst and one of the best experiences of my life. Like, it's a culture shock. You're adjusting. My first day in school, they flogged me. I was just like,
Really? So,
well,
is it because you were the American, or that time were you already like adjusted and you were just
I
rebel?
was the American, and I've told this story before on my social media, and everybody was laughing. So our teacher, I think it was our Yoruba or French teacher, he taught both, and he walks into the class, and I'm just sitting there, and some people stand up, but I'm kind of like, and that was the first class, so I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
And the teacher is like, so you people cannot greet, and I'm just like, what's he talking about? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And he's like, so teacher walked into the class and you guys did not stand up to greet. And I was like, oh, y'all supposed to be standing up to greet. Why y'all ain't do that? Like, I'm looking at
Yeah.
them like,
Yeah.
and so he's like, I'm going to flog everybody. And I was just like, wait, what? So when they get to me, they're like, instructor, she's new. That she's a new girl, she's American. She didn't know, you know what I mean? Like, and that was the
Yeah.
first time and that's another thing. That was the first time I ever had people advocate for me.
Mm. Mm.
Like, where the teacher wants to beat everybody, but all the kids are like, please don't beat her. It's
Mm.
never happened to me in America. You
Mm.
see that Nigerian sentiment. I was
Mm.
like, whoa, these people
Powerful.
are actually like,
They don't even know me like that.
I
Like that.
just met these people.
Yeah.
These people like 30 minutes ago. And
Yeah.
they're just like, please don't beat her. You can beat us. And I'm just like,
Wow. Wow.
okay, these people are, you know what I'm saying? Like, I've
Wow.
never encountered this in my life. Americans would be like, nah, you gotta beat her. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Like everybody get it. We can get like.
instead, it was like, please don't beat her. And the man was like, well, this is her introduction to Nigerian culture. I said, eh? I thought I was going to die that day. They said, open your hand. When they flogged me, say, welcome to Nigeria.
I'm weak.
I
I'm
cried.
weak. I'm weak.
I thought I was going to
Oh
die.
God.
So that's why I said, like, it was the best and the worst, because
Yeah.
for me, you know what I mean? Like, it was just like, are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah.
But it was it was nice. First of all, I love food, so it was nice to get the
Yes. Very.
authentic version of the foods that we had been eating.
Yeah.
Um, I think my biggest curiosity was agbalumo.
Oh
That
yeah.
was my biggest
Yeah.
curiosity,
Yeah.
because as a little girl, my mom always told us about. She used to call it bubblegum fruit.
Yeah.
That's what we used to call it, and it's just like, oh my god, bubblegum fruit. Like, when I get there, I'm gonna try bubblegum fruit. Like, it was just like bubblegum fruit, bubblegum fruit, bubblegum fruit.
Mhm.
And I have a family friend who I torture till today, because he was in school in Nigeria. He's about 5 years older, so he was already in boarding house, and he
Okay.
came to the States right when we were about to move to Nigeria. And so they were like, yeah, ask him questions. And um and he lives in Chicago.
Ah.
So I asked him about bubblegum fruit, and I was like, does it come in different flavors? Raspberry, blueberry, watermelon. He was like, yeah, yeah, absolutely. He was cherry, green apple. I was like, ooh, bet, 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 bet. When they finally brought agbalumo, I was like, what's this? You're looking at it like, I was like, okay. They're like, yeah, just try it. And it wasn't the sweet one, it was now sour.
Yeah.
And I put it down and was like, okay, I tried this. Can I try green apple?
Yeah.
Just remember being like,
This
can I
is
try green apple? My mom was like, there's no green apple. I said, okay. blue raspberry. You know what I'm saying? Like just
Looking for the different.
bring the other flavor because this una flavor no dey
That
work.
one is
So
spoiled.
bring yeah watermelon, strawberry. Bring the one that you know I'm going to like. You see the way they were laughing.
I'm weak,
My
bro.
mom was like,
The trolls.
"This is it. This is it." I was like, "Wait, what?" Agbalumo has gone on to become my favorite fruit,
Yeah.
but it it was like the adjustment, you
That's elite
know,
level trolling though.
bro,
Elite
bro.
level, G. I'm
My mom
sorry.
and my aunties were
Oh
laughing.
my God.
That and because the food is organic and American food is supersized. So I remember the first time they gave us rice and stew, and like they gave my brother and I a drumstick,
Hmm.
and we were looking at the chicken. Nigerian chicken now, it's not gonna be as big.
Yeah.
My brother started crying. Me too, I started crying. But me, I was like, keep it down. No, don't make too much noise. My brother started crying and shouting. So
Oh
they
God.
came, they said, what happened? He said, somebody ate my chicken. I know somebody ate my chicken because the chicken was so
So
small. My
small.
brother
Yeah.
swore that somebody
Somebody
must have
had to eat a
eaten
piece
layers,
of
like they
it because
bit
this
into
can't be
his
real.
chicken and gave him half eaten chicken. They said, say, my dear, don't be angry. This is Nigeria. The chicken is small. So, like those were the things that we experienced. I remember that my biggest fear actually was that, you know, and you don't see that as much in Lagos now. I mean, in certain areas, you don't see that as much. But I remember driving through, certain areas and you'll see little kids bathing outside in the
Yeah.
morning.
Yeah.
And I remember crying one night, like I was crying, and my mom was just like, "What is going on?" And I was like, "Please, I don't want to bathe outside. I don't want to bathe outside." Where I was crying, my mom was just looking at me. She's like, "Are you insane? There are like 3 to 4 bathrooms in this house. I said, it's for the adults. The kids bathe naked outside." My mom said, "Those children are out."
Oh my God.
Like, I didn't just my brain, I thought it was just children who
Yeah.
bathed outside.
Yeah.
And then, like there was adjusting and
Hmm.
then house help, driver.
Hmm.
And I was like,
This is
okay, hold
different.
up. They poor. So what am
What are
I?
we? Right. So
I was
what are we?
like, right. And then I'm like, oh, we got a man, 2 maids, and a driver, and a so
A gate
you
man if you're
saying,
lucky.
yeah, right. So I'm like, you say you are lucky. Who's going to guard the gates? I said, so to be clear, Ollachi has made it. You know what I'm saying? Like to
Yeah.
me, it was just like just a girl from Indiana, and I've made it. That's
Yeah.
and we were even considered like middle class,
Yeah.
but
Yep. Yep.
I loved it. Like even my Nigerian cousins still today will say that, that they'll give me credit that as a child, I recognized how good we had it. I'm like, because I came from America where we didn't have shishi, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and of course, like I excelled in America a lot.
Hmm.
And so much so that I was bored. Like I was bused to different schools because the school in my district couldn't do what it needed to do for me. At some point, I had one of the highest scores in the state of Indiana for testing.
Mm.
Um, like it was that bad. Like I was in second grade, functioning at a fifth grade level,
Oh wow.
American fifth grade, right? And so even when I got to Nigeria, with Nigeria's rigorous curriculum, I was
Exactly.
still whooping my classmates behinds.
Yeah.
And so that's when Nigeria, they had the concept of skipping grades, and
Yep.
it benefited me so much. I was able to skip fourth and sixth grade.
Go straight to Jess. That's what Jess is two, right? No, is it Jess?
No, that's still elementary. So I skipped fourth grade, I did fifth, and then went straight into JS1.
Jess one. Yeah. Jess one.
And I almost skipped JS3.
Mm.
Like I just was not, like the challenges just weren't there.
Yeah.
But my mom wanted me to at least be 16 when I graduated. She didn't want me 15 in college, which completely made sense. And
Sense.
so I ended up, going through all of secondary school.
Mhm.
Um, Now, what's interesting is that I didn't go straight to Ibe-Lamberts for secondary school. I actually, after doing primary school in Lagos, I did 2 years of secondary school in Cotonou.
Okay. Okay.
So that's where I learned how to speak French.
Okay. That makes sense.
We had some cousins who were out of school in Cotonou. They spoke French, and my mom thought it would be, a really good idea. And she was right. Um, I do have some, concerns about it now. Like now as an adult, especially because in law, I have worked in family law and I've functioned as a a guardian ad litem, so an attorney for children, I
Oh,
recognize that there are some, yeah, I mean, like, in some ways it was great. In some ways, I'm not sure that sending a 9-year-old, to another country to go to boarding school where they don't even understand the language is a
yeah,
great idea.
yeah,
But, you get it how you get it. Like life was different back then.
yeah.
Um, and I actually really hated boarding school. But my mom was of the opinion that, look, if she went to boarding school, I could do it. And I kept trying to explain to her, you went to boarding school in the states that you lived in. My mom went to Queen's College.
Oh,
So
and yeah, look at yeah,
yeah, like you're in Yaba and your house is in Surulere. So
yeah.
there's if anything happens, you can run home.
Yeah.
I'm in another country and I don't even speak the language. Like you've now added multiple
Layers.
barriers,
Mhm.
Um, but they basically they don't you dare fail. Like when
Mhm.
you come back home, you better bring report card that makes sense.
Yeah.
So we pushed ourselves, we made some friends, we figured it out. We had a few other Nigerian kids there, a couple that were Nigerian American. And so we actually made friends that we still have till today.
Mm.
There, look, trauma bond, okay?
That is a thing. That is a thing.
Trauma bond, like, when I hop off, and I'll call my homegirl that lives here. We both were in that Cotonou together. We struggled together, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it just is what it is. And then after a couple years of that, we now went back to Nigeria for school, and then that's how we ended up at Igbinedion. And I would like to say that that's where I became really Nigerian.
Mm.
Yeah, like I didn't even speak pidgin English. That is where I learned how to speak pidgin English. And Igbinedion was a school where if you're too American and you're speaking phonetics too much, they will make
They'll
fun
yeah,
of
yeah, yeah,
you.
yeah,
They
yeah.
will
They're
tear
fun.
you down.
They're
Lagos
fun.
is where they're like, oh, you're
Okay, that's
American.
cute. Yeah.
Igbinedion, you're going to be called American Mumu.
Mm.
Like they even used to say is that why are these American children mumus always so slow? They talk so slow. So me, I looked around and I was like, girl, you better
Get
get
that
yourself
adjust.
together.
Yeah.
I observed and was like, this is the culture.
Say
Bet.
less.
And I fell in line. And I made lifelong friends. My best friend was my roommate in secondary school
Mm.
in Indonesia. And yeah, so it it was a good experience. And by the time I was ready to go to college, I actually didn't want to leave. I did
Wow.
not, if not for the state of Nigerian university education, I wanted to stay in Nigeria.
Yeah.
Like it was, we actually had a conversation. It got to the point where my mom and I had to have a conversation, and it was like, okay, what is it going to be? You going to America or you staying here?
Mm.
And, she was like, if you're staying here, we'll get you a flat in Yaba, we'll get you a little car, you'll go to Unilag.
Classic.
And I was like,
You know
you know what I'm
like
saying? That was the thing. Like,
yeah, you know like
like they were setting me up to be an it girl, but it was
right.
like, the strikes and you need like, when will I get this degree?
That's
You
what
know
I'm
what I'm
saying. You'd be there
saying?
for 7 years.
And that was the thing. I was like,
Just to finish one semester. I'm cool.
right. I was just like, and then I looked and I'm like, and I had already started hearing about professors trying to sleep with people. And I was like, let me just go and read my book, you know what I'm saying, in peace.
Yeah.
And so that's why I now came back to the States at 16 to go to college. And it's pretty normal for us in Nigeria, right? But when I'm in the States and college, everybody's like, oh my God, she's a prodigy, like
That was
she's
my life too.
16,
16. It was like
right?
16 in college. I was like, this is regular.
Right. And they're like, oh my God, oh my God. Now, to be fair to them, I finished my degree in like 2.5 years.
Okay.
So I really went through it. So I can understand because by the time I was a senior, I was 18.
Hmm.
And so that I did understand. Like
Yeah.
even the teachers would be like, okay, what are you? And I'm like, oh, I'm a senior. It's like, how old are you? 18. And they're like,
Mhm.
so a high school senior taking classes? And I'm like,
I don't know how
no,
college, bro.
college senior. Like, you
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Like, what's happening? College senior. Like, so that I understand. And I enjoyed my education. I actually ended up going to the same school that my parents went to.
Mhm.
Phenomenal school.
Yeah.
I mean, Purdue is like
Purdue's nice. Low key. People don't. It's
my.
underrated. People like it's very underrated. Very, very. For someone I went to Champaign, so like with like
Oh, okay.
yeah,
I have a
yeah,
couple friends that went there. Yeah.
yeah. So like now, what class are you? If you don't mind me asking.
High school or college?
College.
Oh, 06.
Okay. 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 Yeah. So I was 4 years. I'm class of 10. So
Mhm, mhm.
yeah, makes sense. But yeah, Champagne. I
Okay.
mean, go to Purdue, from my frat bros or whatever. It was a low key
Your
underrated school.
frat brothers.
Yeah, I'm an iota.
When I came back to America, as you can see,
Yeah, I see. I saw the Z5E. That's what. Yeah.
my mother was a Zeta, my dad
Are
is a
you serious?
Sigma. Yes, my dad's sister chartered the chapter at Purdue.
Mm.
So I didn't really have a choice.
The bloodlines. That's crazy.
I didn't have a choice. Like I was born blue, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um, but when I got to Purdue and the Iotas were there, um, my mom came to visit, and my mom said, "Who are these ones?" Because I was like, "Oh, mommy, the Divine Nine," and I was also too young to pledge because think about it, 18 as a senior.
Yeah.
By that time, I was ready to go. I wasn't thinking of pledging, so I had to do grad chapter.
Oh,
16, 17, you just can't pledge,
yeah.
Um, but I remember telling my mom like they're called the Divine Nine, and she was like, "Nah, it's the Great Eight." And
Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
like,
she's old
"No."
school.
No,
Yeah.
I'm like, it's the Divine Nine because she pledged there, and she was like, "No, I got to see this." And I was like, "Is this group called the Iotas?" And most of the Africans are joining, and my mom was just like, "Who?" And then when she saw them, she said, "Who are these ones?" I remember her being, "Who is this?
My
Who
God.
are
Yeah.
these?"
Oh man. Yeah.
But most of the Africans ended up in Iota, and it's
Hmm.
funny, the Champagne Iotas and the Purdue Iotas always used to link up.
Yep.
So
Exactly.
it's funny that yeah, I have like friends who were Champagne Iotas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh well, I have to check in and see. We have to talk offline. But yeah,
Yeah.
that is crazy. Yeah, it because we would go. I mean, we would road trip to Purdue often.
And then we would go to Champagne for parties because
Exactly.
Purdue was very,
It's right.
it's very white. Yeah. So at
Yeah.
least the Champagne was like a little blacker because of Illinois.
It's
Yeah.
just a little bit.
Look, we'll take anything we can
Right.
get.
Just a little
Okay.
bit.
Look,
Oh
but
man. All
it's
right. So you come back. You come back and you're adjusting and you've gotten the college thing. So like how are you now able to, because you also mentioned, you became a mother and you were doing grad school and doing your law degree. But now how are you able to like negotiate like your Pop C side, right? And then because you were in it for 2 years, your mom came, grabbed you, took you back home, 8 years, you come back. How did you reacclimate and just kind of now how are you negotiating all of those cultural identities of yours and expressions?
It was tough. So personally, I think that I'm actually really good at adapting. I'm actually a pretty resilient person. Now, obviously, things that are hard will always leave scars, but I'm usually able to function. Um, and I think just by, like observing things around me, I kind of got a feel for things and it was like, okay, this is how things are done. But I did find that I fared better when I was with my friends who are of my culture. So I was always involved with like the African Student Union and the Black Student Union. Like, and
Hmm.
I was always split between the
Yeah.
two. I was always split, and I was always trying to get them to
Come
collaborate, and they
together.
wouldn't.
Same,
And I
same.
kept, and I would be like, "You guys don't understand that this is the
No,
future,"
I'm
but they wouldn't
telling
listen.
you.
Listen, now everybody's singing "Burna Boy,"
Afro beats.
but you know what I'm saying? Yeah, everybody's now going for Dead to December, and I'm like, "Oh, now you're gonna go." But I found that I just did better that way because the truth of the matter is that while I love Nigeria and I love Nigerian culture, it's not going to meet all of my needs because I'm just not 100% Nigerian. I'm
Mhm.
always going to have that need, you know what I mean, for my Black American side. And so I actually found it easier to have friends on both sides. My brother was more so, he was with the white kids.
Mhm. Mhm.
My brother was with the white kids.
Love you both.
Yeah. And he actually had a really hard time.
Mm.
And in Indiana, the Midwest is a little more racist than people like to think.
Indiana is the Florida of the Midwest.
Right.
Just call it
The
what it
Midwest
is.
is, yeah, it's just that because they're nice, but the
Yeah.
Midwest is a lot more racist than people realize.
Hmm.
And you have people smiling in your face, but then there's like these microaggressions and little things that are really weird. And I'm one of those people where once I notice it the first time, I'm like, mm-mm, you can go.
Yeah.
You can go. You can go. I don't need that.
Yeah.
Um, And so I really fared better. And my brother even used to ask me, like, how is it so easy for you? And I'm like, better go and meet your people. You know what I mean? Well,
Mhm.
hang out with your people. But because I guess he felt like the Africans weren't cool enough, you know what I mean? Or even the Black Americans that were cool, they weren't out there enough because at some point the Black students, including Africans, were only 3% of Purdue's student population.
Yeah. Yeah.
He wanted to be, I guess he was still carrying that Nigerian, I want to be a big boy. And I was trying to explain to him, like, this ain't where you gonna do it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
this is not it. Like, find this place is pretty racist. You got to find your own community and grow in there.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what I did. Is that I basically was able to find my community in America.
Hmm.
So the Nigerian kids, I was the girl that would hey guys, I'm cooking this weekend. Yeah, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
all the boys will file into my house and everybody will come and eat my experimental soup or stew. Like, I practiced on people's sons and they were happy. You know what I mean? They were just happy to be there.
Yeah.
And in exchange, I'm not trying to put nobody in trouble, but in exchange, they would buy me alcohol because in Nigeria, I was
Yeah.
already drinking.
Yeah.
Even though I was 16, started going clubbing in Nigeria by
Yeah.
like
That's
14.
not doing ID.
Right.
Yeah. Nobody.
You're,
Yeah.
once you're in like SS2, SS1, you're going clubbing. You know
You're
what
the
I mean?
big. You're the
So
big person on campus. When you're in SS, well, you're the big
on
one on campus.
campus, who was even in school?
As in,
I was in the club.
like what? Yeah.
You know what I'm
So
saying? So,
alcohol.
and so it's like I've been drinking since I was like 14. I've been clubbing since I was 14. And
Hmm.
now you're telling me I gotta be 21. You know what
Hmm.
I'm saying? So in exchange, my friends would bring like wine coolers and keep them in the fridge for me. And then I would cook. So that's how I built my community. It was just like, look, we're all in this together. Even
Yeah.
if in Nigeria we would have had different backgrounds, I recognize that, look, we're in a different place and we're all in this American struggle together. Um, and then, my African American friends were also, and I mean, till today, like I always have friends split down the middle. You know what I'm saying? Because they understand different sides of you.
Yeah.
And I really think that that is an important thing for people to have. Like, people that, let's just say in Nigeria, like that are of mixed ethnicities, it's, in my opinion, important to have friends of both of those identities for you, because you're gonna feel split down the middle. And a lot of times you're gonna feel like you have to pick a side. But the truth is that you don't. It's your right to
Mm.
right defense. And like,
Exactly.
yeah, it was in
Entitled
my
to it.
it
That's
was in
how
my
I
early
feel.
30s. It's my early 30s though that I
Mhm.
realized that I don't have to choose. You cannot make me choose.
Yeah.
It is my right to ride this
Oh,
fence.
yeah.
And you will sit here and you will enjoy it.
Hmm.
Mm? If you're angry, it's because you can't.
Exactly. That's
Basically.
facts. That's
And
facts.
there's therapy for that. That's not my problem. That's a you problem. So, and it just, that's how I was able to really, really get through college, and especially being so young. Um, black people,
Mm.
black people on both sides. You know what I'm saying? Black people held me down,
Mm.
all the way down. Sometimes the Sigmas, some Sigmas will cook and invite me over to feed me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it just, yeah, that's honestly how I got by. And I have a few friends, we talk about it. I think that things have changed a little bit, and Nigerian parents kind of have a better understanding of how things function here in the States. But there were a lot of us, especially those millennials that came back like in the early 2000s. The ones that came back in the 90s, it was just, they just go, yeah, we're gonna figure it out.
Yep. Yep.
But those of us that came back, like especially in the early 2000s, it wasn't that it wasn't like in the 90s where you're going to hustle. Like, you're just going to hustle, struggle, figure it out. They sent us, but then still expected us to maintain that Ajebo standard, if
Hmm.
that makes sense.
Hmm. Hmm.
But you sent us to the wilderness, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. So like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it was just really weird. Like, we were out here grinding,
Yeah.
suffering, but
Yeah.
we're also keeping up appearances.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
it was millennials that made like African being cool.
Yeah.
They made,
Yeah.
yeah, millennials
Exactly.
made being African being cool.
Absolutely.
But we were hungry. You know what
Mhm.
I'm saying? Like, we were
Fine. Struggling.
so it was really interesting. It's just, we kind of all just grew up out here.
Yeah.
We all kind of grew up out here. And going home Christmases and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it was really just leaning on one another. And I think also email, chat,
Mhm.
like just the invention of those things, that's
Yeah.
also what helped us kind of keep our sanity, because then you're able to keep in touch with your friends from Nigeria. So you're able to
Exactly.
hold on to some kind of identity, right? and
Yeah.
then they invented high five.
Oh yes.
High five
Yes.
did
High
it.
five, the
High
original.
five was that's when the
Yes.
sanity started coming back. I was like,
The
okay, my people,
original. Oh
you're finding each
God.
other. And then Facebook,
Yep. High five. Jesus.
yeah, Facebook was like, I think I joined Facebook like the year I graduated
Yeah, because
college.
that's when it kicked off. Because that was my freshman year. So yeah, that was
Mhm.
oh 06.
It was six, and then I ended up. Luckily, I was a December grad, so I got a little. I got in right on time.
Mhm.
And so
You can only
Facebook
be in
also
college. You
helped.
can only be in college when it first started. You have to have a college.
Yeah, and certain
Yeah.
colleges too. It was
Yep.
good colleges. You know what
Yeah. You
I'm
can't just
saying?
be in a regular, community college trying to
Right.
learn how to
Which,
fake.
not gonna lie, I preferred it. You know what I'm saying? When the aunties and the uncles came to Facebook, that's when we had to leave.
We all
So,
left. It was a great migration.
child.
It was a
When
great
they came to
migration.
Instagram, I just blocked them. I was
Like,
like, you are not gonna
no, no, no,
drive
no, no. You're
me.
not gonna take my joy.
You're not gonna
Seriously.
drive me.
Seriously. That's where I am. All my aunties and uncles, they're just we leave them on Facebook and that's where they stay.
And that's
Like,
where they need to stay.
yeah, no, 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 no. Any of my relatives that come, they shot, even if they hear this, they just know that they can add me. It's just that I'll just usually limited
Me,
immediately,
oh, I
even
will add
block.
you, but
Just
whatever you see, just take it because nobody called you to come here.
as in
That's how nobody called you here. You have Facebook, go and stay
back
there.
then. Yeah.
Nobody asked you to come here. And then the thing is like, and I mean, my IG is out of pocket sometimes, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? And I have had like aunties be like, oh, this thing you posted. And I'm like,
Yeah.
go back to
Relax.
Facebook. You need to,
Relax.
because you're not, affliction will not rise for the second time. You
Yeah.
cannot do this to
Relax.
me because then
Relax.
where do I get to go? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Be
And
on Facebook.
they
It's clean over there.
and really, they're really just on IG peeping just to be like, you're somebody's mother. You can't be. So when I tell you that they have been blocked, or the ones that have even been unblocked, it's just like whatever you see, you're
Mhm.
just gonna have to take it. And I mean, I'm sure you saw my Valentine's Day video.
Mhm. Oh yeah. What,
I
what was that reaction like? I was gonna ask about like the content creation piece later, but we can talk about it now. Let's go to
don't know.
it.
I don't know what they know better than to ask me. Like, so there are some things where they've commented, but at this point, as far as a lot of my family members are concerned, it's gotten so bad that they don't even comment.
Mm,
Like, you know
mm,
what I mean? Like,
mm.
I'm sure, one of my cousins, he sends it to me on WhatsApp and he was like, oh shit. And he was like, I mean, when you told me you were gonna be naked, I didn't know you were gonna be naked, naked. And we were laughing.
Yeah.
And he was like, I can't wait to hear what these people have to say. One
Yeah.
of my other cousins, my female cousin, she was like, I bet these people are over here saying you made your daughter record you. We're just laughing.
Oh my God.
And sometimes I purposely unblock them sometimes just because in case their life isn't like if sometimes they need excitement,
Little entertainment. Yeah, just to ginger
Yeah,
them a little
just
bit.
to, what I'm saying.
Yeah, just
Sometimes
to
those
ginger
aunties
them
and
small.
and since when aunties and uncles, I know you guys like to gossip, to give you source material
Not
so you
so.
can discuss.
Not
So you can
so.
discuss. Oh yeah, it was. Meanwhile, the African American family is like, oh
Hey,
my
go there, girl.
God. You know what I'm saying? One of
Go
my
get
aunties
it.
is like, cover yourself up, but you look great. But
Right.
it's completely different. You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
And so when Nigerians wonder, like, my Nigerian friends are like, well, one thing about you, you're gonna do what you want to do, and it's like you're not even worried. And it's because I got this whole group of people behind me. You see what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Saying like, are you hurting anybody? Are you paying your bills? Are you doing what you need to do? Then do you,
Good. Be good. Mm-hmm.
my aunties and my uncles being like, oh, and they call me Ollachi. You know what I'm saying? Like they're
Yeah.
in the group. Somebody would be in the group like, Ola on the internet, naked again, something like that. And then everybody would be like, oh Lord, do we need to pray for you? But it's
It's
jokes,
funny.
right?
Yeah, it's funny.
It's not how dare you dare me on my page. You understand what I mean? So I think having both cultures has actually really helped me. It's there's a lot that I've not had to deal with the Nigerian culture, or I guess I've dealt with, unpacked, unlearned, and put to the side. It allows you to kind of pick what you need, what you feel
Yeah.
is good for you, to
Yeah.
allow you to progress in life and just take from each. Yeah.
Yeah. And so look, last couple questions, just because I want to be respectful of the time. But like as a mom, like how have you been able to pass on the culture to your kid? I mean, I don't know, what has that been like?
We all think that we're doing a great job. until we find out we're not. And we all think we're doing a horrible job until we find out we're not. And
Yeah.
so I believe I'm doing a great job. She says I'm doing a great job, but I guess whatever person she turns into in the future will determine that.
Mhm.
So, you never know. But I'm one of those parents that is, I'm pretty open with my child. I had a mom who was very communicative too, and she was pretty open
Mhm.
amongst my mom's siblings. My mom was six of seven,
Oh, okay, so
and she was always like the favorite aunt, and she was the aunt that the young people could go
cool
to and
aunt.
talk
She's a
to.
cool
Yeah, she
auntie.
was
Yeah,
the cool
yeah, yeah,
aunt.
she's a cool
I mean,
auntie,
the auntie
yeah.
that married a Black American, pledged the sorority.
She's
You
the
know what I'm
cool
saying?
one. It's like, I
Like
can
this
give
is the
us
auntie.
G's now. Yeah, yeah, yeah. She's
This
the
is
one
the
that
auntie that
come and
went,
take
yep,
me
she'll
out.
have G's. When she gets
Yeah,
angry, this is the auntie that'll be cussing. So whenever my mom gets angry, my cousins will be like,
yeah, she's coming.
Auntie
Yeah,
Lai,
just
Auntie
not to
Lai
give you
about to say the
American
F
word.
word. She's saying bucket, bucket.
Oh man.
So she was, and I think that really helped me, and she really encouraged me to be myself. My mom really allowed me to be myself. I mean, like growing up in Nigeria, I actually was a child actor. I used to act on stage. I would perform on
Mhm.
stage. I actually worked with Charlie Boy and different other musicians and actors. Yeah. So what parent really is going to let you do that? You know what I'm saying? Like my mom really just let me express myself, and she tried not to suppress my personality, except for when she forced me to go to law school. But but that was her dream, and I realize that now, and she
Yeah,
felt like it would secure a future for me if
yeah,
only she could see this inflation and this
yeah.
this America that we're living in. She would be like,
Mhm.
oh my god, I'm sorry. um but with my daughter, because I already had that example and I grew up with a single mom, I already had an example for being a single mom. So I am a single mom. My daughter's dad passed away from sickle cell, or complications from sickle cell, when she was 2 years old.
Mhm.
So it's just been me and her. And because I had such a great example, I kind of already know the layout, the law of the land. I know how things work.
Mhm.
And I just believe that, parenting is like your other parent 2.0, right? Like you learn from them and then you refine it
Yeah, I
and
don't.
you make it what you can. And my daughter and I are really close. um I mean, I would say that I'm strict to a point. I'm a disciplined, I don't play.
Yeah.
But my daughter and I actually, like, we speak freely. I actually encourage communication. I'm a very, very, very um touchy-feely mom, you know what I mean? Like my
Affectionate.
daughter, yeah, will lay down and just my daughter can talk to me about her feelings. We're always hugging. People are tired of us. They are when I say people are tired of my daughter and I together, I mean rubbing noses. Ooh, I love you. No, I love you. And my child is about to be 14, so this is not a baby.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But it's just um and my daughter actually appreciates that she has a mom who is more American, because
Mhm.
with her Nigerian friends, their moms are going to be a little bit more close-minded.
Mhm.
Whereas with me, you know what I'm saying? Like Halloween now. You know what I'm saying? Like, what are we doing for Halloween this year? You gonna
Yeah,
be Beyonce? You're gonna
no
whereas the
hallelujah
other,
night.
do you understand? Whereas the other friends are like, what kind of God is demonic? You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And my daughter
yeah,
is just like, the
yeah.
hell. But then also, you know, if you tell my daughter to choose between pizza and egusi, she's choosing egusi.
Mm,
So she's getting that one. She
mm,
doesn't play when it comes to the food.
yeah,
She doesn't. So she's like, for her, it's like, thank God I have a Nigerian mom, real food.
yeah,
You know what
yeah,
I mean?
yeah,
So it's it's been interesting parenting. It's luckily I'm the kind of person who really ruminates on things and thinks them through. Luckily or unluckily, because sometimes you analysis paralysis. But
mhm,
it has helped me sit down and in my parenting say, okay, what am I going to apply from my culture that was okay? And then what am I not going to apply? But
mm,
having those two options for me has been really helpful because I have things to choose from.
yep, yeah,
You
yeah,
see what I mean? Like
yeah,
I can actually pick and choose. And a good example is like when I first started parenting, you know how Nigerian parents, you would call your children, get out, stupid. I used to
not
do
that.
that.
Yeah, it's that.
And somebody pointed it out to me like, yo, don't
Yeah,
do that, and they were respectful about it. They were like, I'm not trying to overstep, but like you're the person who loves her most in the world. If
planting that
she's hearing that
seed.
from you,
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
that's the.
and yeah, and it
Oh,
took me like actually sitting down, and I apologize. I'm a mom that apologizes. My child knows I apologize.
me too.
Now, granted, I will still go the Nigerian mother route of, are you hungry?
right.
Eh, try this shirt. Do you like it?
Yo, yeah,
Eh.
yeah.
And then it'll be like, "Eh, so you're squeezing face because I shouted at you." Okay, sorry.
Right. Yeah,
You know what
yeah, yeah,
everybody's like, but
yeah,
at least I'll
yeah,
even say the sorry. And
yeah.
then afterward, it's like, okay, come here, give me a hug. I'm really
You talk.
sorry. And then
Right.
I'll explain where I was coming from.
Yep.
But initially, I'm just like, I gotta apologize to this child, you know. But
It's so crazy, sis. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, it's the parallels in it's always so cool how like these parallels kind of show themselves when I have these conversations with people. Because even for me, like I imagine myself as this, I always call myself an African dad 2.0 because I do have those tendencies. My oldest is about to be 14 on April. So like it's I have those tendencies with her, especially during these teenage years where we are, we're vexing me. I have to kind of learn how like I can't be insulting, you know what I mean? So even
but you want
when
to
I have the
because these
urge, yeah, you have
teenage
the urge
girls,
because you have the urge of wanting to be able to just, I want to just give you something to toughen you up, but then
nah, them these 13-year-old girls,
like so then but similar to you, like I had to kind of get myself into my, especially talking with my wife and we'd have these conversations because we have two different approaches. She's African American. Her approach has always been she doesn't like that type of
mm-hmm,
Russian per se, right? Where me, I'm
mm-hmm.
like, oh, well, who are you talking to?
You're going
Big
to
Ten, like,
collect.
like, are you mad? Are you mad? Like,
Oh no, are
like
you mad this happening?
that's
Are
probably
you
one of
mad
the
this
things that
happening?
that's probably one of the things that like she just be like, cause my daughter be like, yo, where did you just turn up on me like this for? Because I can switch like the immediately like
Mhm.
was and the accent comes out like, are you crazy? Like someone's talking to you and you don't. Yeah, you're looking the other way when I'm talking to you. Like, you like, like, want to be like, yo, like,
She's
calm,
like, can I live?
like,
Daddy, can
calm
I
down.
live?
Calm down, G. But like over time, right? So and as she gets older, I had to kind of maybe okay, I'll go and take you. Like, I'll go and take you to, I'm gonna buy you something. Yes, yeah. Well, we'll sit down.
You're worse than
Like
me.
something like she want to go like okay, maybe I'll buy her something, a sweet that I know that she likes. Maybe it's like maybe I bought some like Snickers or something at the store. I just leave it for her. Like yeah,
And you don't give it to them. Oh, you have to put it on the
yeah.
table.
You just put it on the
You
table.
now
Just
be
do
like,
it, and
go and check in the kitchen. There's something
yeah,
for you there.
You want some gummy bears? Or just put that thing. I just put
That's
that thing in a little cabinet. I just go
Haribo's.
and look at the cabinet. Oh, daddy, thank you.
Mine like sour Haribo's. And if I've messed up, if I know I've messed up the most, I'll walk and squeezing my face. I'll be like, "Ouch," and I'll throw it. Then I'll hug her, and then she'll be like, thank you. I'm like, what do you mean, thank you? And then she'll just be like, okay, mama, thank you. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. And
Oh
at least me,
man.
I even apologize. Like I'll be like, can't you see I'm sorry? I'm so sorry. And then I act, but the thing is, I'm good about being like, okay, I know I messed up. I called
Yeah.
you a
This is where.
name I shouldn't have. I'm really sorry. And my
Mhm.
daughter would just be like, honestly, you're getting better. You're working on it. Like she actually tells me, like,
That's good.
you she was like, honestly, when that stupid slipped out, I was like, I deserve it. This woman has tried.
Mhm.
Like when she actually says it, like that honestly, what I did was stupid and you've been trying. Like she
Mhm.
literally she'll be like, you haven't called me names in a while, and that was really dumb. So you know what? You get a free pass. I'm like, thank
Mm.
you.
Yeah.
But you're not stupid. You know what I mean? Like, you gotta you're trying to balance that what they be calling it gentle
Mhm.
parenting
Girl. Girl.
with not raising a
That shit
crazy
not
person.
easy. That shit not easy. I'm not gonna lie
Bruh,
to you. It is
bruh.
hard. It is the
We'll be
hardest
like,
thing.
I'm like, this girl's messed up. I'm supposed to be like, no, don't do that. After a while, I
Mhm.
was like, look, how about we have had the conversation where I'm like, how about I'm gentle, but I yell. And
Yeah.
she's just like, okay. I'm like, I'm an African mother. The yelling,
It's
it's
not a.
just
It's just part of it.
right. I'm like, look,
It's just part of the package.
it's
The
just part
volume is
right. I
high.
was like, look,
The
one time
volume
because
is
she was
high.
like, you're yelling, and I'm just like, if you want to eat a goosey soup, you're going to be yelled at. It comes with the food.
Right.
It is what it is. If
Yeah.
I'm going to stand in our kitchen and make okra for you, know that I'm going to shout at you and ask you if you're mad. And that's just how it's going to go.
Right.
And she was just like, all right, fine. If this is in exchange for my soup, I'm cool.
Right. Oh man, yo,
It's wild.
it is so crazy, but I love it's very reflecting even in our children because like I have this and then I got two younger ones and just even seeing how they're looking at the culture too. Like my baby girl, my youngest, Fufu Fridays, right? Like that's her thing. Fridays is Fufu Fridays, right? And she loves it. My son is like he's a jollof rice guy. Like he doesn't like the swallow and
Swallow.
everything. Yeah.
Hmm.
So like it's so interesting seeing and but my oldest, now that she's the one that even gone
You know,
go on the like and get
I
that
said I would
ready.
be smelling something. I'm like, why am I smelling
Yeah, she's
stockfish?
gonna
My
she's
child has gone to make pounded yam, and I've
she's
taken
going to
soup out of the
she
freezer. I'm eating. I'm just like,
yeah, it's so, and it's not even something that was truly forced. It's just exposure, right? But just kind of, and I'm always, like I said, I'm always grateful to my wife for not showing
I
resistance.
sing out
You know
your
what I mean?
culture.
Not trying
Yep.
to, not, she was always open minded about it. And she all, growing up here, I always understood Black culture as well. And we just
Hmm.
always negotiated. Like you said, we never considered ourselves limited. We was like, yo, we have
We
more.
got options.
We got
Yeah.
hella options. So we can go and we can really make our kids well-rounded in on multiple levels, on a
You don't have
global
to
level.
choose. You
You
can
don't have
actually
to, you're
like,
not just
yeah.
limited to America. You have so much more in front of you and you can be able to adjust. Like you said, being able to adapt is something that I really wanted for my kids as well. So it's just been amazing. So for the content creating, what I really love about your page is that you really do bring your followers to really learn about how you negotiate, both sides of your culture. Now, I want to know really quickly, where do you stand? And this is something I did an episode about this maybe like my first season, but I'm gonna say this and it's not to necessarily be a slur. What's your feeling on the word akata?
I think it's a slur and I think it needs to stop being used. And I've
Agreed.
said it on my page, and it's because and so people don't really, sometimes people don't want to listen, but I know initially it wasn't a slur, and people say that it
Um,
was akin to Black Panther and it was popularized during the civil rights movement, and it was actually a good thing, like Black people fighting the power, which is great. But if you recall, not long after the civil rights movement started, that was when the American government introduced crack into the Black community. And this is a known fact. The documents have been seen. You know what I mean? We
mhm,
all know that it was the US government that introduced crack into the Black community to try and limit the power of the Black population.
mhm.
And so that was, and I mean, we're seeing now how it's impacting Nigerians. Like now, Nigeria is dealing with a crack epidemic. Crack
Mm,
is one, oh,
I didn't
yes.
know that.
Oh,
Mm,
child.
did not know that.
I'm not even gonna say it's a drug epidemic right now. Like it's really
Wow.
when I say this thing is bad. Like it started with cocaine, and you know how it goes. If you can't afford cocaine, you're gonna do crack. And then
Yeah.
there's also a meth epidemic going on, but the crack one really is like the heavy one in Nigeria. And I mean, like there are kids on crack in
Yeah, my
Nigeria.
dad told me about like smoking Igbo and like I know my dad was telling me especially
Mhm.
during the pandemic because my dad is still in Abuja, but like he was telling me some of like the drug usage, especially like a lot of the younger like the poorer kids, especially the ones who just didn't have
It's
didn't have any
crack.
options, didn't have anything, and they were using that. But I didn't know about the crack
It's not, and
thing.
you check the Daigou is laced with crack. And
Mm,
somebody was telling me like you can just get it from any, like down the street, from anybody. And I'm not trying to like point to one culture as doing it, but
right.
like like you can go to a malam and get it, that kind of thing, just like how you can go to a malam to get bubble gum.
Yeah,
Like
get
it's
anything
just
from your mom.
people are having to leave the country to get clean.
Mm,
Like it's that bad. The psychiatric wards are so full that they can't even take new patients. And I'm sure you're wondering, like, why is it this bad? When the crack epidemic and the drug epidemic was happening with Black people, our people acted like it was happening to them because they are Black.
mm,
Remember, I said before that I really do feel like African parents are not the best at raising Black children. So
mhm.
we acted like this can't impact us. This is a them problem.
Something. Yeah.
Not realizing that, like, and that's why when America was educating their kids on drugs, identifying drugs and being able to, saying no, but like actually identifying the drugs and things like that, we don't really take part in that. Even sex education, we don't really take part in that, not realizing that knowledge is power. But in our culture, sometimes in our Nigerian culture, we act as if exposing children to information is going to make them want to do it more. And it's very possible that that does do it. But when there is a risk like AIDS, teen pregnancy,
Mhm.
addiction, information is probably better than a lack of information, especially if as a culture we have this thing where we send our children away to go to school. Like if you're going to have them in your house and you don't want to inform them, that's one thing, but you cannot not inform your children and then send them to boarding school.
Yeah.
When somebody now gives them rock to smoke and you told them don't smoke igbo is grass, but you never talk to them about a rock. You see what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So, and I have friends who are in recovery. I have friends who have recovered, they're no longer, but I have friends who were on crack.
Mm.
like childhood friends who would like be like, "Yo, somebody gave me this thing to smoke. It looked like a rock. I thought it was," and they were like, "That was it. Like my life for 2 years was just insane." Um, it's really crazy. So knowing how that affected the Black community around that time, Akata then started being used as a way to refer to Black Americans, like the drug
Believe.
addicts.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Right.
it was really like I'm not trying to use. I know this is also being, man. The world is so PC now, and you can bite your tongue when you're talking.
Mhm.
But that was like there were a lot of crackheads at that point, and there was a
Yeah.
lot of Black people that were crackheads,
Yeah.
and that's when Africans started. Well, Nigerians were like, "Oh, Akata," and it was really
Mm.
it started being like this.
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
we're really being honest, right? Like sometimes people just use it to refer to Black Americans, but if we're being honest as Nigerians,
There's a
when we
connotation to it, sis.
there is
There's a
now when we are
connotation.
saying Nakata
Let's
is
be
like
honest.
this,
Yeah,
your hand is
let's
like
be real. Let's
this.
call a spade a
It's like
spade.
those ones,
There's
you know
a
what I mean?
this mess man
Those
like
ones.
yeah,
Yes, now it's like when you're hanging out with a bunch of Yoruba people and they're like, Omo Igbo.
as
That's
in
exactly how you know what I'm
that
saying?
same energy exactly.
That's the exact same. Or when Northerners come around and somebody's like, no, those mala.
Because
That's that
those who
energy.
know, he's like, especially within that community, like you know the tone and you know
That's
exactly what it's
it.
saying. It's like a silent thing, you know.
But we be gaslighting and pretending like, oh
Mm-hmm.
no. And so here's the thing. I have friends who are in Gen X. I actually have friends who are like 60, 70 years old. Like I have friends from different generations.
Mm-hmm.
But I have friends who are like, a lot of them are turning 50, some of them are already 50. They really just mean it as Black American.
Mm,
I've heard them and they're like, they even you it almost is like a hailing kind of thing.
mm,
So I understand that their understanding is
mm,
the older understanding.
mm,
But when it now starts getting closer to like millennials and lower, it's like this now. You know what I mean? Especially
mhm,
amongst us, it's very much a
mhm,
slur. The ones who use it, and it's not so much of a slur, I found are the ones who maybe don't live here or maybe just got here. You understand what I mean?
mhm.
But in the States, as it's used, it is a slur. And also, I just feel like when a person has told you what to refer to them as,
Call them
why
that.
can you not just refer to them as that?
That
Like
part.
why? And that's a very Nigerian thing. Why are you 10 toes down on doing what you want to do to other people? And
Mm,
that is a general complaint that people have had about us around the world and especially around the continent. There's a
mm,
reason why they be driving us when we go places. You know what I'm saying? There's a reason why South Africans and Ghanaians are like, come and be going.
mm,
It we're strong, but we can be bullies
mhm,
and
mhm.
it's a bit much, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it's just I just feel like there is no reason to refer to somebody as something when there is a perfectly good word that you can use to refer to them.
Exactly.
So even my friends, when I have conversations with them, they know, like you say, oh, this Akata babe, and I'm like, language, and they'll be like, oh my God, I'm sorry. So I've actually put the rule in place that like you cannot talk to me and use that word. Like I know I'm Nigerian like you,
And
but I'm
also,
also Black American,
exactly.
and you have to get it together. Like you just cannot use that with me. So I will just tell you language immediately. And then my friends will be like, they'll laugh, but they'll be like, my bad, my bad. I'll be like, that's cool, but we're not
Yeah,
letting it slide.
yeah.
I think it's something that we need to get rid of. There's no reason why it should be in our vocabulary. It's actually not necessary
It's
because if
very
you can say akata, you can say black
like, it doesn't take much energy.
black like literally black, that is it akasa is even two extra syllables, but you will see them arguing online, sometimes you even see people in the comments saying I'm not going to stop saying it and you know that's okay. I just hope you can fight. You know what I'm saying? i
because
I
because
hope you can fight because
this is
the
problem.
day, and that's the thing,
You
like
catch the right one. You catch the right one who understands exactly. Like you catch the right one, like my wife or
even
something
the
who understands
intonation, you know what I'm
exactly.
saying, they're gonna sugar hill your behind, like it's just and it's and I'm just saying to my fellow Nigerians that like to, you think you hard. Are
Mm,
you bulletproof?
mm,
Because these Black people got guns. That's what the police have. When I was in law school in Texas, the police actually said it, that they said one thing they noticed about Africans, especially Nigerians, they don't like guns. They're afraid of guns.
yeah,
They actually said it. They said
yeah.
whenever there is a gunfight and they see a bunch of Nigerians, they're like, they usually push the Nigerians to the side, like, these ones are less likely to have, because. So knowing that, that's who you want to go and be calling Akata.
Right. If you
I
like your
hope
life, if you
I hope
like
you
your
know
life,
I hope you know how to dodge bullets because
Matrix.
the day somebody, you know what I mean, decides on you. Mm. This ain't
Yeah,
no, you know what I'm saying? This is not your regular fist fight and tearing shit.
exactly. That's a fight. Oh God, yeah. Yeah. So to wrap it up, what do you want with everything that you're doing, as a content creator? Like, what do you want your legacy to be? Well, actually, let's take it back. What do you think is the solution to trying to bridge that gap between both cultures that you kind of represent, that kind of I represent? Like, so how do you think we bridge those gaps between the African Americans and the Africans of the diaspora, the Black immigrants overall?
So I personally think that, the last Ghanaian president really did something that I think will be remembered in history with the year of the return. Um, and I think, the publication of Dirty December is going to be great. But I also think that, we do have to kind of take some time to study places like Liberia,
Hmm.
right? And make sure we don't make the same mistakes that we made before. So, there's a good example. I think someone talked to me that about like there's potentially, and I'm not sure how true this is. I'm just saying that this is what I've heard, that there's potentially an African American community that's being created in Ghana.
Mm,
Now, I'm not sure if that's a great idea.
mm,
Right? I'm just not sure if that's a great idea. But that's me. I'm not sure how great of an idea it is to go to another person's country and then build your own exclusive
mhm,
community. I think that that's how you end up with those kinds of problems. And if at some point your society within that community begins to be very affluent while others are struggling, the poor will eat the rich. Okay?
yeah.
Like that's just how it works. You will be blamed or you will be disliked. Now at the same time, I do feel that we do have to find a way to recognize and celebrate our individuality, just as we celebrate our individuality in our tribes, right? Our ethnicities and our cultures. Because I think the biggest mistake we could ever make is to try and force everybody to blend together. And I think that was one of the things that happened with Liberia. So we
Mm,
do have to be, very careful about that. I think what would really help our culture and what I would like and what I've talked to friends and things about is a cultural exchange, having Africans learn about sub-Saharan Africans learn about African American culture, having African Americans learn about real African culture so that we have an understanding of one another and we understand that while we do come from the same place, we technically are not coming from the same place now.
mhm,
So it's like meeting your cousins, knowing that they're not your siblings. You don't have the same mom and the same dad. You don't have the same life experiences, but you're still family. And I think if we find a way to connect on that and educate one another, and I think if we work together to recognize the common goal, which is, Black enlightenment, Pan Africanism, Black power, not Black supremacy,
right.
I feel that we will be able to actually get things done. Now, obviously, there will always be people, you know what I mean? There are always going to be extremists, there are always going to be outliers. But I think that first things first, it's going to be really hard for us because first things first, we need Pan Africanism, right? We need the continent to come together. African Americans are African Americans. You know what I'm saying? Like they're already together. They
Yeah,
have their identity together. They have accepted, okay, we are Black.
yeah,
Nigerians cannot even pick a national language.
yeah.
You know
Right.
what I'm saying? Like we kind of have to be able to come together on certain ideas and ideologies at least that we can stand on. And I do believe that the exposure, and I'm not saying that Africans are not exposed, but I'm just saying that the amount of exposure and generations of exposure that African Americans have at their disposal is extremely beneficial to the continent.
Mhm,
Now, granted, we just have to make sure that in our interactions, nobody is coming in with an air of superiority
mhm,
and that everybody is coming in as equals and that we are trying to negotiate and we're coming in with an understanding of one another. I
right.
feel like if we move forward like that, we will be able to. But you see this dead December thing, it's that's why I said we kind of have to still remember our differences and individuality. As
Mhm,
much as everybody's gonna enjoy Desi December and I'm gonna be honest. I was thinking about it the other day. Like this is right. This is my dream come true. My people are going home, but
right.
at the same time, now we got traffic, and I'm just trying to go. I'm trying to go home. You're not even from here, like
Right,
you know
right,
what I'm saying.
right.
And then I catch myself saying it, and it's like, oh dang, no, but I just said they're from here, and now I'm
Right.
like, you're not even. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
it's gonna be a little hard. I just think that it's it's an interesting place that we are at, but I think that if we try to remember the goal of connection, not necessarily assimilation,
Mhm.
um, I think that we will be fine. And I think one of the biggest things is that, I deeply, deeply implore African Americans to be open-minded, especially when they're going to, another person's, country or a place that, your generations have not been there for almost 400 to 500 years.
Mhm.
That is one thing I will say about my culture on the American side, that I do sometimes find that sometimes, in the Black American culture, you can find that there's less of, being open-minded. Like I found that, like, if I have like some of my Nigerian relatives try an American food that they don't like, we'll be whispering like, "Mm, I don't like this." But then, on the Black American side, somebody going, "Yeah, this nasty," and that's
Right.
and it's
Right.
just like, can you not just
Yeah.
close your mouth? So things like that, or not going in with an air of superiority, like, "Oh, y'all Africans, we coming from the States, like you are a gift to
Mm.
us."
Mm.
So that's the thing, and then also us also not being like, "I'm not from here." It's a delicate thing, but I think that if the exposed amongst us, the educated amongst us, are able to pioneer this in a certain way and set it up in a way where even those of us who are up and coming in knowledge and exposure can emulate, I feel like we'll be fine.
Mm. That's good. That's good. And then now I can ask, like, what do you want your legacy to be personally? Like when it's all said and done for what you are as a Nigerian and American, how do you want, how do you want to leave your legacy for yourself?
Um, I don't want to say love, but it is love. It's just that it's not the love that people think of.
Mm.
I think people have their own views of things and they try to force it on other people, and it's just like, this is what love has to be to you, and that's just not what it is. Like, I believe I'm a very loving person, but I'll cuss you out if you try me, and that's okay because you deserve it. And it is what it is. Um, but I really do want it to be that, in that I hope that by the time I leave this earth, people can look at me as a point of reference on how to maybe find happiness, how to be yourself in this world, and not care so much about what other people think about you. Like, I want people to be able to look at me as an example of honoring your autonomy, honoring your soul. I personally believe that we are all given our own individual lives to see what we will do with them. And I think
Mm.
it is completely a blasphemy for somebody else to try and control the life of another person. And a lot of times, especially in our Nigerian culture, we don't realize that our culture and our traditions tends to do that. And and even with religion, so there's a
Mhm.
lot that people end up learning that holds them back from being the best that they can be, from doing the things that they want to do, which is why on my page I do different things, which is why you'll see me, like, I'm a lawyer, I'm a mom, but then you'll see me doing sexy dance. And it's not because, oh, I'm just all over the place. I'm a multifaceted person. We are all multifaceted people. Even the person with the most one track mind you can think of is a multifaceted person. And I believe that we came here to create, to collaborate, and
Mm.
honestly, to enjoy.
That
Like,
part.
we actually came to, so it sounds childish, and I always say that to my child, we came to play.
Mm.
If you think about how we used to play as kids, you know what I mean? We were actually happy and we were getting stuff done. And so that's kind of how I approach life. It gets a little stressful sometimes, but I approach life as playing. So, like, even if I'm dating a guy, I actually will tell him, like, "Hey, I want to play. Can you come play with me?" I I mean, pillow fights. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, my idea of a date is, take me, let's go karting. Like, I want to
Mm.
play.
Mm.
And I think that as adults, we have forgotten how to do that, and you can see that in the sadness in everybody's eyes. You can see, you know what I mean? Like, people's
Yeah.
dreams are unfulfilled because they're following rules that don't even apply to them. And, I think I'd said the other day, like, where has carrying the weight of other people's expectations and opinions gotten you so far?
Not far.
You know what I'm saying? So, have you tried maybe doing what you want to do? As long as you love God, love one another, and you're not hurting anybody, do you? You know what I'm saying? And I really, when they say hurt people, I really believe that when a person is happy, they don't have the time to be hurting
Enjoying the
somebody
happiness.
else. Right. And so I'm hoping that I leave a legacy of, love, but also communication. And there's also that I feel like there's a lot that we need to talk about, but we don't talk about.
Mm.
And sometimes I'm the most inappropriate person. You do not want to put me on speakerphone when I call. You do not. Like everybody knows. Anybody that puts me on speakerphone, as soon as I open my mouth, they're like, I don't even know why I did this. And it's but it's because I was that kid that they would just be moving me or moving people around me
Mm.
in class because these ones are talking too much. Then
Yeah.
they'll bring somebody quiet. The quiet student is not a talkative. Then I said they even put me next to somebody with special needs. That one was talking. They were like, so at some point they sat me next to the teacher.
Yeah.
The teacher was talking and telling me her personal business. And so but if you have a 30-something-year-old woman opening up to an 8-year-old girl, what does that tell you?
The
That
8-year-old
that
girl.
person needs to communicate, they need to connect, right? And a lot of times we have things that we're going through that we want to talk about but we don't talk about because we're ashamed, or society has made it such that you're going to be looked at a certain way if you discuss certain things. And I really don't want that. I feel like we learn from one another, right? That's what we're here for. We're here to collaborate.
Yeah.
But if we don't share our experiences, if we're not open, if we're not vulnerable with one another, how do we grow together? Now, I'm not saying that we're going to like every single person that we meet. And
Right.
I've gotten to that space and that stage in my life where I can meet a person and be like, I don't like her. And that's okay. Don't
Yeah.
bring her around here no
Yeah.
more. I'm sure she's a great person. Don't like her. You know what I'm saying? And it's just, it is what it is.
Mm.
And it's just like, I don't think they're a bad person, but,
Just don't
and
fit
we
you.
can,
We
and
move
we can
on.
be there.
Mhm.
But I want to be that person that kind of pushes us to think a little deeper,
Mm.
um, grow. You know what I mean? And it's just like individually, to always challenge yourself and ask yourself questions and recognize the multifaceted within you. You can dislike a person and still see their good qualities, right?
Mm.
Two things can be true at the same time. And I've noticed that in Nigerian culture, a lot of times they want you to pick one thing, one thing. If you open your mouth and say, this person is a very bad person, but they can be good, Nigerians will say, you have come. You are
Yeah.
sowing seeds of confusion. And it's like, I'm not. You know what I'm saying? Like, just give yourself a second, That's who I want to be. Like, I want to push us. I'm trying to push us out of our comfort zones.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, no, that's beautiful. And I thank you because that's real. Like it's just so there's no gray in Nigeria sometimes, even though there's so many grays, but they don't want to see the gray. It's crazy. But anyway, we can talk about this all day long. But sis, I just want to thank you so much for taking the time for even talking. And this even went like longer than I even anticipated. But and that's good for me. Like, but I was,
I knew it
cognizant of
would.
the time. I'm very, very grateful for just you being able to, like you said, share your experiences with us. And man, how can people follow you? How can people be able to learn more and stay in touch with you, especially with all the content that you're doing?
Absolutely. So I can be followed on Instagram is the best place to find me. Um, I recently joined TikTok. Well, I wouldn't recommend. I'm still figuring it out, but Instagram is the best place to find me. My handle is at Nzagram. It's Nze because I used to be a musician in Nigeria and my moniker was Nze. Um,
Got you.
so Nzagram, that's how you can find me. If you follow me on Instagram, then you'll be able to see any more updates on what I'm doing. So, like when my website goes live, when my YouTube channel actually picks up. If you want to go to my YouTube channel while it's still in the beginning stages, you can find me on Ollachi TV on YouTube. Um, and yeah, come join the ride and let's grow.
Yeah.
And it'll be very inappropriate too. but, but it's worth it. It's worth it.
Oh man, yo, this has been a fun time, man. Ollachi Holman, thank you so much, sis, for just coming on the show and just sharing your transnational experiences. And please know that we will be continuing to rock with you and support you and all that you're doing, man. Just thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.